And welcome back to redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. I'm your host Mikey, and in today's tutorial we're going to do the loops and fringe scarf, and this is absolutely fantastic. I've worn this scarf out in public. Compliments like you would not believe, and I know it's just not because it's me, it's because the scarf is fabulous. The yarn is great. Now this pattern works out really easily. It's a repeat pattern of doing the same two lines over and over and over. This is one of those patterns where I decided to run a tutorial because I think the starting is a little complicated in the sense that your brain is just not really firing off properly. Well, maybe I'm talking about myself, it's quite possible, but I found with myself that I really struggled with the starting of this project, but once I got it, it's like everything just clicked into place. This is called the loops and fringe, so it does have a fringe, and when we do this project you're going to want to be very conscientious, especially if you're using the Red Heart treasure balls, that you want to be very conscientious on the length of this scarf because you'll run out of yarn. This only requires 2 of these balls, so if you want to use an extra third then you can make it even longer, and just make sure that you have enough left over for your fringe. The fringe is done afterward. Even these major loops that you see, that's all done afterward. So we're going to start off with a nice flat line first, and when we get started you'll realize how quick and fabulous this project is. I've actually done quite a few of these ones as well, not only in this color but in others. So let's get started right now. So I really want to direct your eyes to this particular project. We have 2 lines as I just mentioned in the intro, and in one line we have a lot of solid stitching, so you'll see that you have a lot of solid right here, and what's really confusing is that we're going to be doing these major gaps. Do you see how they're on their outside? Well, part of that gap is working up the other, so it looks like you have a lot more stitches than really are there, and that's what makes it really unique. So if I pull it apart you can really start to see that. So what happens here on one row, we're going to be filling it in, and there's only 6 here. It looks like there's more, but because of the transitioning yarn you can see that the more is actually the color of the loop from the row below. And so if you can get that into your brain it's a lot better. So in the next one what happens is that we start decreasing stitches and we start jumping over, and once we start doing that it causes it to V-shape in, and what happens is that you'll have 6 V-shapes in the end, and what you're doing is that you're using the elements of over top of a loop in order to pull it in over top, just like so. And because we're skipping here it means that we are only going to be left with 6. So when you come back to the row above you're only left with 6. I know that sounds confusing. I don't even know if I'm making any sense, but once you see this pattern operate and you understand that fact, this pattern goes relatively quickly once it's into your brain. So without further ado, let's get started, because the chain is really going to confuse you, and that's one of those ones where you start second guessing yourself, but hey, I'm here and let's get started right now. So today I'm using a size H or 5mm. This is one of those projects that you'll want the stitches to be nice and tight together. So even if you're substituting the yarn, I am using the Red Heart Batik Treasure, and I'm going to use a little bit of a longer tail on it so that I can put it in with the darning needle afterward. So I want you to start looking at the pattern here with me, and we're going to chain 26. So we have our slip knot and we're going to just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and please count all the way to 26, and when I come back we're going to get started and work on the first row, which is the most complicated I think of this pattern, and let's begin from that point. So let's meet back, do 26 chains, and I'll see you in just a moment. Now normally I would tell you to understand everything completely, but in this case I'm going to ask you to bear along with me for this and trust me when it comes to this particular pattern. The first chain I always thought was most complicated. It took me a half hour to actually understand exactly what the designer was asking, and I think it was just more of a visual thing. It's not because she's confusing in any way, it's just because it wasn't clicking into my brain. So let's just work step by step, and it says 2 double crochets, 6 chain from the hook. So we're going to come back and we're going to look at it here, and we're just going to count our chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm going to just turn it over, and I'm going to get the back loop only of my chain, and I'm going to double crochet twice because that's what it says to do. And you're going to end up with a big loop on the edge, and that's exactly what you're looking for, like so. So let's begin our next process here, and that counted as of a chain 2 and then a double crochet. So that's what this is doing it right at the end, and that'll make sense when we come back to the next rows above. It says now to chain 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it says to 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So right on the next chain that's available I want you to put 2 double crochets. Do you see how I'm pinching down on my finger like that? That helps you stabilize your work as you do it, because that chain likes to wrap around your hook. So there is your 2, and I'm just gonna grab the project, so just bear with me for a second. And so what happens is on this is that when we look at it from this perspective, you have your big loop here on the edge. You have what appears to be a V shape, and so when you look at it from this perspective is that you have your loop, okay, on the edge, and then you have your V shape. This whole looping area here is this gapping space that you see here. It's coming up and over and back down, and once you get that into your brain, it actually works out pretty good. I think that's gonna be my whole thing for this. So let's move along in this project and continue along in this chain. We're now gonna skip 2 chains on the bottom here, and we're gonna put 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 chains that are available. Okay, so 1 into each of the next 2. And this pattern is starting to work out back into my brain again. So what we're just following along the pattern, it says to skip the next 2 chains, so 1 and 2, and then we're just gonna come into the 3rd and we're gonna put 2 double crochets into that same one. And now this is the middle gapping space of the scarf. Okay, and do you see how when we did that, we have this big loop here? Well, we're gonna do that again here. So we're gonna chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and come back down into the very next one available and put 2 double crochets into that one as well. Just like you see. Okay, so now you can see that you have 2 groups of these things going on, and you have your 6 in the middle, and let's carry on. So we're gonna skip 2 more chains, 1 and 2, and the next 2 in a row will be 1 double crochet each. Perfect. Okay. So you can see we're having this, so we're repeating exactly what we have over here but on this side, and essentially now what I want you to do is I want you to skip over 2 more and double crochet twice into the 3rd one. So 1 and 2 right here. We're gonna put 2 double crochets into there, and then chain 5 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and coming down onto the next one on the next stitch available, we want to put 2 double crochets under that side. So this is what was causing me to misjudge my work, is that I was very confused by what was going on here, because I'm thinking, well, the scarf is looking like it's starting to turn a circle. You have to just bear with it, because in the next round everything's gonna stabilize and you'll be very surprised. So at the very end you want to skip the last 2 chains and then double crochet into the last. Okay, so we're just gonna double crochet. If you run out of stitches, it's quite possible, just double crochet right into your last one and everything should just stabilize. So even though it appears to be going in a circle at this point, it's gonna balance out in the next one. So let's move along to row number 2 next. So row number 2, we're just gonna turn our work, is really easy. So here's what we're gonna have. At the end you have a double crochet here, you have 2 double crochets here. So on row number 2 we're just gonna match exactly what we see. So we're just gonna chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3, and that counts as one of the double crochets, and now we're just gonna double crochet into the next 2 that are available. So just 1 into each. Awesome. So once you get that done, is that you're gonna single crochet into this gapping space twice. 1 and 2. And did you see what just happened? It pulled it over, didn't it? So what we're gonna do now is that you have 6 stitches that are available here. So you see how they're just all leaning toward the center? Going for the next double crochet that you see, you're just gonna double crochet into each one of them that are available, and there will be a total of 6. So working our way across. Okay, we want to make sure we get right to that last one. There will be a total of 6 in there, just in case you're miscounting. Remember that this one here is being pulled over the very first one, so just make sure you don't miscount that. You now have your next gapping space, so we're just going to single crochet, and see how that just pulled it over, and single crochet again twice. Okay, so we have 2 on that one, and then here's your next 6. So each one of those are going to get a double crochet each. So the repeat pattern starts off with rows 2, which is this one, and the next one, because it's starting to, the next one is the base that's going to be for the remainder of it for row number 3. Okay, so now that you have that in, and we are going to single crochet twice onto that big loop, and just like you did on this side, we started off with chaining of 3 and then 2 double crochets. This side there's 3 double crochets left. You just put in 1 into each. And in the next row, row number 3, this is where everything starts pulling together. And that will complete that round, our row right there. And you can see it's now just starting to straighten up. So row number 3 is really easy. You just have to visualize this in a really unique kind of way. You remember in the very beginning we had this big gapping space over here? And we have to kind of recreate that once again. So how we do this is that we're going to start off with chaining of 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we are going to skip the next 2 double crochets that are here, and then we're here on this particular loop. So the next stitch we're going to run into is the single crochet. That's the first single crochet, and it wants you to put 2 double crochets into that one. Is this starting to look familiar? The only difference is it's not a chain. So now we chain 5 to recreate this big loop that we have down here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we come down onto the next single crochet, which is the last one. There's only 2 there, and we double crochet twice into that spot. Okay, so you can see you've just recreated that loop once again, and now we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets, and the next 2 will be by themselves, a double crochet into each. Excuse me, I just dropped my stitch. And then we're gonna skip the next 2 double crochets. So this is the 6 in the middle. We immediately just skip over the first 2. We only play with the middle 2, and we skip over the last 2 and immediately go for the next single crochet, where we're gonna put 2 double crochets into that spot. Now we want to recreate that loop, so we chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And coming back down on the other side of that single crochet for 2 double crochets into that one. Right there. So now we're going to skip over the next 2 and double crochet in 1 into each of the next 2. So this is the middle of the 6. We skip the next 2 double crochets and immediately go for the single crochet for 2 doubles into the same. And then we recreate the big loop again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Coming down onto the other single crochet on the other side. I don't like the way that I got that because I don't think I did it right. Just make sure you get it right. See how it twisted around? You should push down on it just to stabilize it. Okay, and once you get this one in, we immediately just double crochet once into the final chain right there. And so then that completes off this row right here, and this is row number 3. So I'm gonna take you back to row number 2 again, and then we're gonna do row number 3 one more time so you get it at this point. So let's repeat row number 2 again, and we're going to start off again, and we're just repeating exactly what you already know, but this time we're just gonna take it one more time just so you get it. So we're gonna chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3, and it says double crochet into the next 2 double crochets. So you see them there, they're right there. So 1 into each. And now that we have our big loop that's right in the way, we're gonna put 2 single crochets right into that loop, and then that's gonna pull that over. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and then we are going to put 1 double crochet into each one of the 6 that are in the double crochets that you can see in the next part. So this row we don't skip over any stitches like we did on the last row. And the reason why we're doing that, just in case you're curious, is that because we are using the single crochets, it adds stitches. So what happens is by skipping stitches, we're just bringing it back in balance for this particular row by doing what we're doing. And I'm just going to make sure I get that in, so the last one is in. Okay, so there should be 6 here, and remember that this loop does not count, so we have our 6, and then here's your next loop, so 2 single crochets right on to that loop to pull it over, and then the next 6 you're going to be double crocheting again. And you see how that just kind of went over top of that loop. And on my particular project, once your scarf gets a little bit of weight to it, you'll notice that these loops are not so obvious and that they become more of characteristics of your scarf and become very desirable for design, and it makes it look like it's really hard to do, but in actual fact it's really not. Okay, we have our big loop. We're going to single crochet into each, or twice, sorry, into that one, and then the last 3 double crochets that are left, each one is going to get a double crochet. So when we come back, I'm going to repeat row number 2 once again, just so that you get it, and therefore we're going to then move on to how to do the fringe work, and this is what you're seeing at this particular point. We're going to turn our work. We're actually going to repeat row number 3. We were just on row number 2. I'm sorry about that. I was kind of distracted. So let's move on. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we immediately go and look for the first single crochet that's sitting on top of the loop. Okay, and we're going to put 2 double crochets into there, and so we're recreating the loop for the next round. So we chain 5, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and 5, coming back down into the next single crochet, which is the other one, and we're going to put 2 double crochets there. Okay, we're going to skip over the next 2 double crochets. There's a total of 6 of them right here in the middle. We're only going to play with the 2 middle ones, and then each one of the 2 middle ones are going to get 1 double crochet each, just like you see. So we skip over the next 2 and immediately just look for the next single crochet that's available in the loop area, and that'll get 2 double crochets, and then chaining a 5, and we come back down into the single crochet on the other side for 2 double crochets into that side. We now have 6 in the way here in the bottom, so we just play with the 2 middle ones, so you can either count it or just look for it. You will start to really see this pattern materialize before your eyes. You probably will not need to count a lot. So now we just skip the next 2, immediately go for the single crochet for 2 double crochets into that one, creating the loop again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we come back down into the single crochet, and those are 2 double crochet there, and immediately we're just going to double crochet into the edge of the chain, of the starting chain that we did there. And that would be how you would complete this, going back and forth doing the same stitch work, and you will see that it's going to start layering. It's going to start to create ridges, and it's going to be very desirable. When we come back, I'm going to show you how to do the edging. The edging is a lot of fun too, and we just want to make sure that when we're finishing it, we're going to finish off on row number 2, and in row number 2 it's going to be with the double crochet into the 6. So when you finish row number 2, it should be the solid, just like you see right here. So let's begin to do that next. So let's begin the edging, and the edging will ask you to have fastened off and refasten on both sides. So the edging is done for both sides at the end of your project. So I'm already attached here, so I'm just going to bear with me right here. So let's pretend I've just attached it and joined with the single crochet. So I'm going to just chain 1 and single crochet into the first one, and I'm going to single crochet into each one of the stitches going all the way across. So this will be row number 1 of doing your fringe work. Okay, this is the edging, and so just single crochet all the way across, and you'll want to do this on both sides. So you're gonna do one fringe at a time, so just do this for this, and then you can repeat the video to do the other side if you need it. So just single crochet all the way across. Now you would have had 24 stitches going all the way across to this, so the next row, number 2, absolutely makes sense. So what we're gonna just immediately do is that we're gonna immediately chain 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and I want you to skip 7 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and go to the 8th, or sorry, skip 7 stitches, go to the 8th, and then chain 7 once again. So you're gonna single crochet there and chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, and 7. And then I want you to skip again another 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Go to the 8th. And then what you want to just do is again it's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can either count it or you can just trust yourself and just go right to the edge, because that's where it should be anyway, in single crochet. So this here would be the next up there. So you should have these massive loops, as you will see, hanging from the scarf in the model. So let's turn our work and we're gonna move up to row number 3. Very easy around here. It says slip stitch to the first loop. So all you're just gonna do is just slip your hook into the first loop, pull the yarn, and pull it through. So now we're actually in the loop itself. So let's begin. It says to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and it says to 3 double crochets into that same area. So let's put 3 double crochet in. 1, 2, and 3, and in the rules of crochet that chaining of 3 counts as 1, just so that you're aware. And now it's asking you to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then 4 double crochets into the same loop again. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we want to repeat exactly what we just did here, but in the next loop. So we immediately, not chaining anything, we just immediately go into the very next one here. So let's begin again. We're gonna 4 double crochets into this next loop. So remember when we started off with chaining of 3, that's because we've started the row. So we're gonna do 4 double crochets here, and then chain 2, 1 and 2. Come back down into that same gapping area and do 4 double crochets again. Okay, and so we have one more. Let's get that right, and let's come back into the next one here. 4 double crochets, 3 and 4, chaining of 2, 1 and 2, and then back into there for the final 4. So 1, oops, so 1, 3, and 4, if I can get it right. So there is your total top going across, and so we just have another row to go, and this is the one that really makes it a lot of fun too. So let's begin to do that next. So let's start off this round, round number 4. This is your final of the fringe. Really, really easy. So let's begin. We're going to begin by chaining 3. 1, 2, and 3, and I want you to go right to this gapping space right here. And let's begin. It says to single crochet into the gapping space, which we're gonna do right now. Done. And it says to chain 15. So what we're gonna just do is chain 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then we're gonna single crochet back into that same gapping space. So there was 15. It says now to chain 17. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, coming all the way back down for a single crochet. And let's do that one more time. So this time it's 15 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And we come back down into that same gapping area. Make sure you don't have these loops all twisted around anywhere. And single crochet. So now you will have 3. So the middle one will be longer than the other, and then we just immediately chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. It'll take you into the middle space right here, and then 1, 2, and 3, and it'll take you to the next group where you'll just repeat the same thing. So you get a single crochet there first, and then chain your 15, come back, single crochet, chain your 17, come back, single crochet, chain 15, come back and single crochet, and then chain 3 and move to the next spot. So I will get you to do that off camera, and when we come back I'll have that done and you can finalize today's tutorial right now. When you get your final one done, all you just need to do is chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and single crochet into the final stitch that you can find right here, and then to fasten off, and the fringe would then be good to go, and you have a gorgeous fringe work on the edge of your scarf. Until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. Thank you so much for joining me today, and for more free patterns and ideas, please stay tuned for redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd, and we'll see you